Hello guys, and welcome to another one of my app creation videos. We're going to be continuing from where we left off the last time. We're going to be opening NetBeans, opening our main class, and navigating to the restart game method. The first thing we're going to be doing is loading and saving data, and you write shared data.player cache equals preferences.get saved cache. You make these parentheses where you write int and then you write 0. What this does is it says take the value we have saved called saved cache and return that as a number. If there is nothing, give us a 0 and store that in the saved data player cache variable. So that is just loading the data. The next thing we're going to be doing is go to the point where we give players cache, and we're going to do pretty much the opposite. We're going to say preferences set. We're going to write saved cache. Basically what we're doing here is we're saying take this value from the shared data player cache and save it and give it the name saved cache. That is the name we asked for right before. So this here is saving and loading data. Pretty simple. Just make sure they have the right names, the same names. Test the app. Should be no difference. Try to earn some money and close down the app, load it again, and your balance in the game should now be whatever you earned the last time around. So this is like very simple saving and loading information in the game. We're gonna make a new class, and we're gonna be working on a target dummy this time around because I want to show you guys how you can focus on specific areas on the screen for tapping. I'm calling my class graphics target dummy. And before we make too much there, we're going to make another class. Now we just have it ready, and we're going to write shared fonts. It's actually going to be called shared colors, but I just wanted to show you guys, if you make a mistake and you want to rename a file, a class file, like here we called it shared fonts, we don't want it to be called shared fonts. You go to the structure on the left side, you right click the file name and find something called refractor. Now there we have it, and then you select rename, and then you can rename the file, and the program is going to check for all the places where you used it and change it there as well. So pretty simple, but in case you made that mistake, this is how you rename a file. So shared colors. A color is basically just a number, and you guys can look up hex numbers if you want to learn more about it. We're going to be adding loads of numbers in our game, but for now we're just adding some basic ones. Black is basically 6 zeros. Here we write 0x and then 6 zeros. White is 0x and then 6f letters. We're just going to be copy pasting this code here for a few colors. We're going to give them a unique name that tells us what color is this, because nobody remembers all these numbers. I remember some of the basic ones that I use a lot, but every single color you can imagine pretty much is made up of these 6 numbers that are red, green, and blue values from 0 to 255. So the first 2 are the red, the next 2 are the green, and the last 2 are the blue. And how you mix these numbers give you some kind of color. But for now, guys, I am adding in these numbers here, these colors for us to access and use, and you can add as many as you want. We're going to be adding a lot more, but I just like having, if I want to use a yellow color, I don't want to be remembering that it's 4 F's and 2 zeros each time. I just want to write color yellow. So that is why I'm doing this. It is another one of those building blocks I like having when making any kind of development, where I have some basic things so I don't need to remember everything all the time, because it just results in errors, to be honest. We're going to make an array list, and this is a list of nothing, but we're going to be putting in our numbers, and since our colors are numbers, they're integers, we're going to make an array list of integers. We're calling it color list, and we're just making it as a new list with nothing in it to start out with. Then we're going to be making a method. You hit Alt Enter to import the array list so that the program knows what is this array list thing. And now we're going to make a method where we basically just put in all the colors in the list, And the reason why I'm doing this is because if we want to get like a random color at some point, then we need to have everything in one mixed bowl so that we can pick something out of it. If we want to do anything that involves anything besides taking just one color, we're going to have, we just need to have these things in a list. And it's just, we're doing that from the start, so we don't need to do it if or when we need it. Once again, it's a copy paste kind of thing where you just colorlist.add and then you put the name in there, and you do that for every color you have. If you put in your own custom colors, you just add to the list pretty much. Write them up top and give them a unique name, add another line down here, pop it in there, and then you have another color in the list that you can work with. So this is another, like, this is a building block that we can expand upon. Your list doesn't need to look the same as my list because we can prefer using different colors. We can also make different themes and all sorts of stuff, but for now, just sticking to the basics. I want to be able to get a random color, and the reason for that is because I want to show you guys a little bit about random. So we're making a new class for that. Random involves mathematics, so I'm calling this math random number. That is the name of this class. So at any point in time where we want to do something random, we're going to ask math random number to give us a random number. So that is why we're making this, so we don't need to remember how do I make a random number each time. We just made something now that can give us one, and then it's a done deal. This method here takes a minimum number and a maximum number. So for instance, this could be 5 and 10, and what it does is that it gives you a random number from 5 to 10. It could be 5, it could be 10, it could be 7. We're making a new random. You hit Alt Enter to import the random library, and then this random number that is generated by the system, we use a method from that called nextInt, feed it with the maximum minus the minimum plus 1 values, and then we add the minimum value to that afterwards. This code here gives us the random number between our minimum and maximum value. That's you're never going to have to change this. This is the way it is, and now we have it. So from now on we can make random stuff. We go into our random color method here, and the first thing we want to do is we want to make sure that the list that we have made, the color list that starts out being empty, has something in it. So if we ask for a random color the first time, the list is going to be empty. So we're saying if the list has a size that is of less than 1, then it is empty, then fill the list. That's pretty much just how we're starting this. The next thing we're doing is we're saying return the number, because the color is the number, from the color list, and the number you need to return in the list is a random number from the list starting. It could be the first one, that's always 0 when we are working with development. So it is any number from 0 to the size of the list minus 1. Because if we have two things in there, they are going to be number 0 and 1. So the size is actually 2, so it's not a random number from 0 to 2, but from 0 to 2 minus 1. It's a bit weird, but that's how it is. So now we have all our mojo down here, and we can, at any time we want, grab a random number. We can grab a random color, and we may never need it. We may need it right around the corner. But if you guys want to do anything random from now on, then you have the tools for it. So we're going back into the graphics target dummy class, and the first thing we're doing is we are preparing the variables that we need for a target dummy. The X and Y variables. Where on the screen is it? How many hit points does it have? What is the speed it is moving with? If it is moving in the X or Y axis, how much is it moving? In what direction? What is the maximum X value? What is the maximum Y value? Minimum? So like, how far can it move in the screen? These are things we want to be able to customize for a target dummy. The next thing we're going to be doing, I would normally make this in one large go, but for the sake of making it a bit easier to see what I'm doing, I'm just splitting it up a little bit here. We're going to have on our target dummies a head and body target area, and for every area we want to know what is the minimum value of this area, like to one side, what is the same value to the other, and up and down. So you picture like we make a rectangle and we want to be able to check, is the user touching within this area? So we could do this with x, y, width and height, or maximum and minimum values. We make it for the head, we copy that code, and then we just change where it says head to body. We could do this in a gazillion other ways. I am doing it like this because I hope it is going to make it easier for you guys to like understand what they're used for, how we're doing it, and to copy it and make new areas and stuff like that if you want to be doing that stuff. We're adding another variable called color because we want these target dummies to be able to have their own color, so we could make friendly ones that you don't need to shoot, or some that are worth more than others. We're making the constructor now, and this is the thing that you call when you want to make a new thing. So when we set up a new target dummy, we need to give it some information. We want the X position, the Y position, where on the screen should this be added, how much health should this particular target dummy have, how fast should it be moving, what direction should it be moving. These are information that we want to know when we're making it. Of course, what color is it? So when we get these pieces of information, we're going to be telling ourselves that our value, this.x, equals the X position that we got. So my X position for this one that I'm making is going to be the same as the X position you passed as you made the new one. You don't really need to worry about it. These things are pretty much, this is not the stuff you want to be changing until you get like a deeper understanding of it. But if you just get the part where the stuff at the top within the parentheses, those are the things you get, and then you just need to save them for each target dummy. And it's just a bit of setup stuff that we need to have going. We're using our shared data screen dimension information here to get the maximum X position is of course the width of the screen, but we're making it a little bit larger because the target dummy is not just 1 pixel, so if it goes a little bit out of the screen, we don't want to be cutting it. For the maximum Y position, how far down can it go? We also want it to be able to go further down than the actual screen position. It's not like super important. What I wanted to do here is just to show you guys this is something you can customize. So by changing the numbers we are adding here, you can actually affect where on the screen these target dummies are going to be positioned when you make them. So the next thing here is deciding how to move this target dummy. We're using something called a switch, and it is the same as saying if something do something, if something do something. It's just, I prefer this actually. So what we're doing here is we're saying if the my direction, the string that we gave in the parentheses, if that is left, then we're setting the dx value to -1 and the dy value to 0. This means on the x-axis we're going to be moving -1, so more to the left, and the y is 0, so we're not going to be changing the up and down direction of the target dummy when it is moving. Right now I'm making a left, a right, and up and down, and of course if you're going right, the x value is going to be 1, meaning that the value of the target dummy, the x position, is going to be 1 larger, so it's going to be moving this direction. If it was 1 smaller, it would be moving this direction. Pretty much the same with up. If we want to go up on the screen, the y is going to get 1 smaller each time, or 10 smaller, but it's going to be a negative number. If we want to go down, it's going to be a greater number. We're going to be increasing something to the y value of the target dummy. You don't need to be fiddling too much around with this. If you want to make diagonals, you need to have both of them as 1 or -1 and not 0. We're making something called the default. It just means if we send something that isn't left, right, up, and down, it's gonna do that. And that is negative on the x-axis, so it's moving from right to left. So this was another way of doing things. Hit areas. I took the liberty of looking a little bit into these area sizes and circles and stuff like that to make the video a tad shorter. What we're doing here is we're just making sure that the variables we made before for the body and for the head have something in them. They don't need to be the right values. We could just write 0. It's just because if they are empty, we risk trying to do something with them and get an error because you can't divide something by 0, or so we're putting something in there and you can just write 1. Really, it absolutely doesn't matter because the probability of the player hitting wherever this information is in the same 20th of a second, or like 20 milliseconds, I think our refresh rate is, of this being added to the screen is like non-existing. But now it's there and you can customize it. It's also nice to have if you want to just test things without the movement going on. Anyway, for now, copy all this stuff here. This is for the body target area. It's going to be for some circles on the chest, and we're gonna copy all that stuff, and then we're just gonna paste it down below, and we are going to replace the body with head. And now we are 100% sure that there is some kind of value in these in these area variables. That's really all this is about. So with this done, we have set up when you make a new target dummy, where on the screen is it gonna be, what color is it gonna be, how much health, where is it gonna be moving, how fast is it gonna be moving, and where can you actually tap on it. That was a lot of geeky stuff. Yeah. So we are moving down now to the move method, and I'm doing things a bit differently this time around than how I normally do things, but it is also to pique you guys a little bit on how you look at things I do. Perhaps you're gonna be thinking, why are you doing it like this time? Last time you did like that, or is this smarter than what you did before? And that's really cool if you do. Making another variable, I'm calling it isAlive, and we want to be testing if this target dummy is dead or not. We don't want to move it if it's dead. So that is the first thing we're doing in the move method. We're saying if this thing here is still alive, then we want to do something about it. We are going to change the X position of this target dummy by a value equal to the speed multiplied by the direction. So it is -1 and the speed is 8. We're going to go 8 in, let's just see, this direction. My cam is inverted. If it is a positive value, it's the other. If it is 0, then we're going to be moving 8 times 0, so that's still 0. For instance, here, if the dy is 0, then we're going to be moving nothing in the up and down direction because we're multiplying the speed by 0 for it. You don't really need to fiddle around with it. It's stable, it works. Copy the body and head target variables and change these numbers. Each of these target dummies have a target area on the head and on the chest, and when the target dummy is moving up or down, right or left, we need to make sure that the area we check to see if the player touches moves as well. Because if we just say we are checking if the player hit it where it starts and the target dummy moves, then we're never going to be hitting it the right place. The next thing we're going to do now that we have updated this piece of information about where we can hit it is that we're going to check, did we do that? Once again, normally I would do all of this in like one long line, just like one big if, all of the things, but now I'm splitting it up to make it a bit easier to see what is going on. With checking is the X position of the touch. That is the touch controller that is telling the shared data, where did we touch the last time? If this value is within the minimum and maximum X values of here, the head target area, then we have hit it within like this area. What we're doing now is that we're doing the same, we're just replacing the X's with Y to see did we hit it within this area. So if both of these are true, then we have touched within the part of the area we have defined as the area on the head of the target dummy where you can do something. It is, I know it is like super, don't get me started, but that is how it is. Not the best way to check for it. It could have been done in so many different ways, but I'm doing it a bit like concrete, the brick safe here, just to show exactly what is going on, and hopefully in a way that it can be understood. The last thing we're going to do is say is, if these things are true, take the current hit points of this target dummy and reduce it by 1. Minus minus means reduce this value by 1. We copy all the stuff because this was just checking for the head, and everywhere down here where it says head, we're just going to remove that and write body instead. So if we hit the head, set the hit points to 1 less. If we hit the body, set the hit point to 1 less. So it's the same deal. We're just checking for 2 different areas on the target dummy. We could have done it in one long line. Hopefully this is a bit easier to work with. So what if the target dummy has moved all the way out of the screen? What if it doesn't have any hit points left? Well, then I consider it to be dead. Then the isAlive variable we set before, we're going to set that to false, as in it is no longer alive. The reason why I'm doing it like this is we want to have the option to include many different target dummies, which means we're going to have a controller that is managing all of these, and it has to remove the things that are dead from a list. So now it's just going to be keeping eye on am I dead or alive, and the next time the controller sees it, if it sees that it is dead, it's going to remove it from the list. And while this thing here is alive, it is going to be moving itself. So it's a different way of doing it than what we have been doing with the tab text, but it is the same functionality. We're just doing it slightly different. And over the course of these videos, I'm going to be doing many things in many different ways, just to show you guys that there is like no one way to do things. There are many ways to do things, and some of them may be more efficient, use less capacity on the device or something, but many things work. The next thing we're going to be doing is that we're going to be able to draw this target dummy on the screen. We're not making a separate drawing thing for this, we're just adding it in here for now, and we're being like super dirty sneaky, and we're adding the move method inside the draw. So when we're asked to draw, we start by moving before drawing things. Then we set the color of the graphics to the color of the target dummy, and we make a rounded rectangle. We did one of those in the last video as well. It is starting at the position of the object, the target dummy, and 20 pixels to the left and 20 pixels up, and then it is 40 pixels wide, and it has a rounding of 18. Import the graphics with Alt-Enter, and what we're going to be having now is pretty much a rounded rectangle drawn on the screen. But nothing's happening until we actually create this target dummy, and we're going to do that for now. Super dirty coding, we're going to remove it in a minute just to show you guys. We're going into the graphics controller, and we're going to make a graphics target dummy. We're calling it dummy, and we're saying new graphics target dummy after this to make sure that it now knows that whenever we say dummy, we mean this new graphics target dummy that we made with the numbers we're putting in there. So the numbers we're putting in these parentheses are the ones we had in the parentheses before: the X position, the Y position, the speed, the color, the direction, which isn't a number, that's a text. So 100 means it's going to be in the upper left corner of the screen. It's going to move pretty slowly. It's going to have very few hit points. It's going to be moving in, now let's go with left for now, and the color, now I'm just typing black, but we could also do shared colors.color black. This is the dirty way of doing this. Is like the ninja speed tests, okay? We're going down into the place where we draw everything in the graphics controller, and we are writing dummy draw, and we're putting the G in there, means that we're sending it the graphics. It can now draw, and we did it, but we couldn't see it because we sent black on purpose to it. Now we're changing it to blue, and like a ninja, we now get a blue target dummy head moving left on the screen. So that was pretty cool. Let's change it to right, and then let us change where it starts. So we're now starting all the way to the left, and it is going to be moving all the way to the right. This is just a rounded rectangle. It's blue and it's moving from one end of the screen to the other. No magic. It cannot be removed yet. It cannot remove itself. We're going to make a controller that can in fact remove it, but it can call itself dead or not alive, and then it will stop moving. It's not enough for us to have a head. We're also going to draw a body, and the body is it's just a larger rounded rectangle. That is how I'm making it. I want you guys to please remember everything that I'm going to be doing, at least in the first many episodes of our videos here, is going to be focused around functionality and coding, because you can change the graphics to whatever you want. At some point I'm going to show you guys how to put an image in here that you make in Photoshop or buy from another artist or whatever you want to be doing, and then you can just replace these ugly codes with with a really nice looking image, or you can draw something really nice in here if you're good at drawing with codes. So the graphics here are for the sake of demonstration. That is all it is. But it doesn't mean I won't be making ugly games. We're also going to have good graphics at some point. But in my situation, graphics means I need to pay someone to make something that looks nice. And I may also just buy a license for something, so I can't share it with you guys in the same way as I can with codes. And I don't want to be making too much stuff that you guys can't replicate. Anyway, next thing we're doing is that we're making a white color in the graphics object, and we're going to be drawing a circle, draw arc. And this is a very small circle. You can see it down there at the center of the target dummy's body area. This was not a lucky guess. Okay, I spent some time figuring out where I wanted these numbers before making this video to save a little bit of time. We're going to be copying that line because we want 3 circles in total to make out this targeting area. So as the circles increase in size, they're going to start further to the left and further upwards to keep the center in the same position. The 10, 10 is the size. So the first number is where do we start? X. The next, where do we start? Y. Then we get what is the size in each direction, up and sideways and upwise, downwise. Then we have the starting radius and we have the end radius of the circles. You're gonna have to fool around with this stuff. You're gonna have to play with it to get to know how these things work. I'm just doing a little bit here, just for the purpose of fooling around with the numbers. There is nothing dangerous about this. You can't break your computer. See the centered, yeah, the middle circle is only 180 degrees now. So it was only half drawn. The 2 last numbers here means where does the circle start and where does it end in terms of degrees. And if you don't know anything about degrees yet, think of them as a number starting at 0, ending at 360. If you go from 0 to 360, then you have a complete circle. If you start at 180, being half of 360, then you have half a circle. You can also start at 90, then you have 3/4 of a circle. Fill around with the numbers, all of the numbers here. You can't break anything. Make weird shapes and sizes just to fool around with it. I suggest you do so. Instead of draw arc, you can also write fill arc. Then you don't just get the line, then you get an actual filled circle, whatever you turn it into. Just as we did with the rectangles, we did fill round rect. You can also say draw round rect. Then you don't get the filled color, then you just get the line. The next thing here, we just copy the lines, 3 circles again for the head area. Fill around with the numbers. You can change the distance between the circles. As you can see here, now they actually don't have the same center position. It doesn't look as much as a targeting area. I'm not saying that what I made looks like an amazing targeting dummy, but it's just for show. We have to move the X position of these circles in order to have them centered. We need to move them 5 pixels to the right. So we are reducing, we're actually subtracting something from the X value, and we are subtracting 5 less now, meaning that we now have the circles centered in the rounded rectangle making up the head just as we have it in the body. So what we have now is something that we can call a target dummy with two targeting areas, one in the head, one in the body. It's moving around on the screen. We can customize its speed, where it is, how much health it has, everything pretty much about it. But now we're gonna delete everything in the graphics controller. This was just dirty. We need to show it right now because I wanted you guys to see what we have been doing with all these silly codes. It works. We can do one now. We just did that, but we need a controller for it. I'm going to write controller target dummy, and this is going to be something similar to what we did with the tab text. It is going to be something that has a list of all of the target dummies. It is able to create more target dummies and put them in the list. It is going to be able to remove them from the list. It is going to be able to do things based on list information, just as we also did with the colors. If we have more than one of anything, we want to put it into a list so that we can work with it. The more you get into development, the more you're going to appreciate what it means to have an array. But let's go with list, because you can do every kind of wizard, ninja, hardcore computer magic if you can access a lot of things at the same time, and you can juggle them. You can say, I want this thing and I want that thing, and I want to swap these positions. I want the one with most of this and least of that and most to the left, and then you can start doing crazy stuff on your computer. But if you need to make one of each every time, it's just never gonna happen. So even though you may be wondering what's the big idea with all these lists, then it's really about being able to do a lot of stuff in a very advanced way. And we're gonna get to that. The first thing we're doing here in the controller target dummy is that we are adding all these variables. How many target dummies do we want to have at maximum on the screen? How often can we make a new one? When did we make the new one? What is the chance for this target dummy to be a friendly one we don't want to be shooting? Maximum, minimum Y positions. Notice that these are overlapping because we didn't make some before. Finally, we are making our array list. And this is an array list of graphics target dummies. Notice the typos here. Then it won't work. We need this to be a dummy and not a gummy, and then we need to import the array list. We already have that. We also need to give it a name. What's wrong? Everything's working. We have the array list, what it is. But yeah, what's it called? It's called target dummies. Multiple, because we want to be able to have more of them in there. So we have a list for every target dummy that we haven't put in there yet. Now we need to make the methods that can do stuff. We want to be able to manage them. This is a controller, it manages stuff, and is going to do so with a graphics object, because it is going to be able to tell every one of these graphics target dummies to draw itself, and it can only do that if it sends it the graphics object. So our graphics controller at some point is going to be sending the controller here, the controller target dummy, the graphics, and the controller here is going to send the graphics to each and every one of the target dummies that need to be drawn. That is another way of doing it. The first thing we're going to be checking in our manage method here is, should we make a dummy? We're checking to see, is the size of our list larger than the maximum amount of dummies we have said we want to have. In our case, this is 5. So if the list has less than 5, is what we're writing now, and the time right now minus the time we made one the last time, if the difference, that is, if the time since we made one is larger than or equal to the minimum time we have set the spawn delay. So what we're asking here is, do we have room for more? We don't want more than 5. Has it been more than 2 seconds since we made one the last time? If both of these are true, let's get to work. And that's what we're doing now. We're making a number, spawn x, setting that to a random value from 1 to 2. So spawn x can be 1 or 2. We are making a speed. It is going to be a random number. As we made, our method is going to be a random number between 1 and 3. This is how our random method class comes into use already. So now we can do random stuff. Where do we want it to appear? I don't know. Let's make it fun. Let's do it random. Sometimes right side, sometimes left side, sometimes fast, sometimes more healthy. Dummy health. How healthy, how many hit points does this dummy have? How about between 1 and 4 hit points? Random is awesome, especially if you control it. We're gonna do loads of random stuff, but for now, just a little bit basic thing here. We're making a string that is a text called side, and we're starting by telling it side has the text friendly. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to say, okay, make a random number between 1 and 100. If that number is larger than the chance to be friendly that we said, that is 10. But now we just want to be able to update things. If we change the 10 up there in the variables, it's going to affect the entire code. So if the number we get is larger than that, we're going to change the side text from friendly to OPP as an opponent. So this is where we determine, is this a friendly target dummy or is it an opponent? There is 90% chance of it being an opponent, 10% chance of it being a friendly one. Just super basic stuff, but I figured some of you might want to, know how that stuff can be done. We also want the color of the target dummy to change based on whether or not we are looking at a friend or foe. You don't want to be tapping your friends. You don't want to be shooting your friends. You want to be shooting the bad guys. So the color, the dummy color, starts out by being our color green dark. But if we change it so that the side is opponent, OPP, we are going to change the color at the same time to something else. We're not working with nice looking colors here. These are like, yeah, super fast color things. And we can just make it red. I know this is not going to be nice on the eye, but that is not my intention. We are just trying to make it really obvious for now. Is it working? Are we getting different colors? That is the first thing we're doing, is we're making all this stuff and we're testing, is it working? And it's very nice to have like squares and circles and whites and blacks and greens and yellows and reds. You can really see, is it that the right shade of red? Is it really no? Make it completely obvious how things are. As we did with the side string, we're starting here by making a direction string, and we are setting it so that it starts out by saying left. The next thing we're doing is we are testing the spawn x variable we set to a random number between 1 and 2. If that is 2, we want to change it to 0, and we want to change the direction text to right. What this means is that we are going to say, if the random we made 1 or 2 is 2, start at the left side and move right. If it was a 1, start at the right side, that is the screen width plus 50, so actually out of the screen, and move left. So we can move from one side or the other at random. There is a chance of this target dummy to be friendly or a foe. Very cool, I think. Where do we want it to spawn? At the Y part of the screen. We're going to do that at a random position between our minimum and maximum values that we defined at the top as well. Note that these are kind of mixing a little bit up with values we had in the actual target dummy, but for now we're just going with this. Now that we have calculated all the data for this new target dummy, we are finally going to add it to the list. So target dummies, that is list, add. What are we going to put in there? A new graphics target dummy. In the parentheses here, we're adding all the values that we just calculated: X position, Y position, health, speed, what direction are you moving, and what color. This we could just have put in numbers, but then they would appear the same place every time and do the same thing. Because we have empowered our thing with Java random, now because we are using random, we're changing things around. So nothing is going to just be appearing the same place. Different speeds, colors, positions. It's going to make the game much more alive. And the last thing we're doing is we're setting the time, the variable holding when did we spawn something last spawn, to the time right now. So we won't make another one. We're gonna wait 2 seconds, 2000 milliseconds. So now we're done checking. Should we add one? Do we have room for one? And we have added it. And then we're going to say, okay, we're done with that stuff now. Whew. Go through the entire list, and do stuff with everything we have. We could have done these in separate methods. This time around, I'm just doing them in one. So we're saying for everything in this list here, you can write FORI and hit tab, and then it's going to make the default code. So for everything in the list, look at number I, that is whatever number in the list we have reached, and check, is it alive? If it is alive, do this. For this target dummy, the one we're working on right now, draw it and send it the G so it can do its mojo. If it isn't alive, then we better remove it from the list. We don't want to work anymore with it, so target dummies, remove I. These few lines check if something is alive and make it move on the screen, and remove it if not. All the creation is actually the stuff we have done above, and it's because of its randomness and its customization options, because we can do so much with it. It's a huge code, but we're only needing to do it once. That's the good thing. So we're copying this controller target dummy name. We're going into our graphics controller, and in there we are now going to tell the graphics controller, when it's doing its drawing thing, to tell the target dummy controller to manage the dummies, and you're getting the graphics object for it. We got an error, and you tap the links down in the middle there to see what's going on. And our error was in the randomization function. We got to a negative number. That is because of our two values that were both dependent on the screen height and a number we were subtracting. So we actually gave the random some really bad numbers, so it could not return a random number. Like if you're saying, give me a random number from 5 to 2, that doesn't work. Or from -2 to -7. You have to give it the minimum value first, then the maximum value, and they need to be plus numbers. That is how the randomization method is. Now we have changed up the values. You know, if you get an error like that because you have been fooling around with these X and Y positions, that's what's going to happen. And look at what happens now. We have our manager. It is managing the target dummies. It is adding red, green. They have circles on them in the right places, every single one of them. They're moving in different directions. Magic. Absolutely magic. They are very much in the same Y position. They are not really that much different in their up and down position. That's not entirely what we wanted, but that is one of the effects of having two different places that affect a given position. We don't want that stuff, but you also need to remember that these target dummies are drawn from an X position, and then we are doing stuff either upwards or downwards. We're subtracting and adding things to the actual value, but we're going to be looking at that later. For now, we want to add a multiplier to our reward player inside the tap cash calculator. We're just writing int multiplier in the parentheses, and it means it wants a number before it's going to do anything. And that number, the multiplier, we're going to be making an asterisk before everything that gives the player cash. It means whatever number you're giving it is going to multiply the cash it is rewarding the player with. If we give it a 1, it's just going to give it the player tap cash value. We're commenting out the old way of giving players money with 2 dashes, 2 lines. If you want it there, you remove those lines. It is now working and updated, but for now we want to earn money by shooting the target dummies. So here, if you hit the head, we want to give money as if you were tapping, but times 3. If you hit the body, times 1. So hitting the body gives 1. Hitting the head, what? How's that possible? Well, actually, we're getting the right amount of money, but the text that is being shown is wrong, and that is because we have only updated the part of the method that changes the player cash variable, not the one that makes the tap text. That's really all it's about. We were giving the right amount of money, And this is in the same area. We just forgot about it while we were updating the code. And of course, we're just going to go in there. As you can see down below, we're making the graphics tab text, add tab text at the position of the finger. And we are adding shared data.player cache per tab. It's going to be right down there. We need to multiply that by the multiplier. So we don't just need to give the player the right amount of money, we also need to show that we're giving the right amount of money, like so. Because of the way things are in this game right now, objects can overlap, you can be paid multiple times because they can be on top of each other. There are many things that I haven't taken into consideration, but I want to make these videos as, a little bit compact. So we're going to be looking into that. Don't worry, we're going to make it amazing. For now, we're just gonna be changing a few big stuff things. We want to make in the graphics target dummy something called side as well, a string text, and it's going to be defaulted as OPP. This is the same as what we did in the controller, and we want the controller to give the side to the individual target dummy, so we are making room for it up here in the constructor. So the my side, that is a text. When it gets that, it's going to save that in the individual target dummy so that it knows, am I an opponent or am I friendly? That is what we have done now. We're just going to have to put it in every place where we make a new one. That is done now because the only one that makes new ones is the controller. Now that the target dummy, the individual target dummy, the graphics target dummy knows, I can check if my side is opponent or friendly. I have that variable. We can also in the code check if it is. So right now we can check, is this a friend or foe? When you hit it, when it reduces the hit points, we can check if this side is opponent, give the player cash. If not, oh boy. What do we want to do? We can do anything we want. But for now, we're just going to be copying the reward player 3. So instead of giving the player 3 times as much for headshotting, we're going to give the player a penalty by removing 5 times as much cash. So if you headshot a friendly, you lose $5. If you headshot an opponent, you get 3. That is one way you can make these mechanics. It could be anything else than cash. But I just wanted to show you guys how because one thing is adding them in different colors. That has its purpose, of course, just for the theming of it. But now they actually behave differently. And that is, I feel, super important, because now we can actually use it for something. So fool around with it, with the values, with the circles, make the areas larger, smaller. You can even add a foot for these target dummies. It's just a rounded rectangle you add below. I didn't add it on purpose in case you guys wanted to fiddle around with it. But now we have different effects of shooting different target dummies and in different places. If you shoot a friendly in the chest, you get -2. If you shoot a friendly in the head, -5. An opponent, 3 for the head, 1 for the body. The last thing we're going to be doing, well, not last, but right now we are going to, in the graphics target dummy, the one that draws the individual dummy, we're going to do the same as we did in the graphics controller. We're going to say, let us save the information about drawing as it was before we start working, so that when we are done, we can change it back again, because we're going to be changing colors, we may be changing transparencies, we may be changing a lot of things as we are working on this, and perhaps we did something somewhere that is going to affect something else. It thought it was drawing with yellow, and now after we're done, it's drawing with white or blue or whatever the color of this thing is. So we're just saving the color, we're saving the alpha, the transparency that the graphics is working on when we get it, and when we are done, we're setting it back to that. That is just it. I think it's good practice to do. It's of course even better practice to make sure you never assume anything, but right now we are returning things pretty much the way we got them. Right now you can fiddle around with the variables up here, and that is why it is made like this. If you change max dummies to 10, you can now have 10 on the screen. If you change the spawn delay to 500, the controller may spawn one every half second. If you change the chance to be friendly from 10 to 50, there's going to be a 50-50 chance of getting a green one instead of a red. We made all this code, and hopefully you have an idea about how some of it fits together, how some of it works. But the important thing is that you know if you want to add these, or if you want to build upon this, if you want me to update this even more, in order for you to do anything here, you actually just need to change the numbers up there to be able to change those things. If you wanted to be able to change something else easy, then let me know. Like for instance, do you want me to add a lock so they can only move right or only up and down with a simple number? Then we can add that, because if you have this code and you are a non-developer and you just want to make something with it, then it is actually possible for us to make the code in a way where you can just change one number, or you can write right instead of left or up instead of down, and it changes the entire game. You can change the color from color blue to color yellow, or like stuff like that is what I really want to make in what I'm making here. Things that when you are done watching the video, when you're done typing the code, or just grab my source code files, you can go and you can change a few numbers, you can hit play, and you have a different game that is working like you want it, where you get as much per tap as you want. I know things are still like so ugly and so basics, but this is a clicking game, and we're going to be adding new features. The reason why we made a graphics text controller and control a target dummy and all sorts of stuff like this is because once we have made them, we can remove them again from the graphics controller, and then if you want to use them, you can just put them in. The code is still there, but if you don't want to use them, you can just like put 2 dashes and the program forgets about it. What I want to add here now is a combo multiplier. I was thinking about adding 2 things, but let's just go with 1. Red hits in a row. So whenever you hit an opponent, this value is going to increase. What I wanted to show you guys here is how to use this as a sort of a combo so that you get more and more cash for hitting the right type of, I'm completely blank now, target dummy. So keep hitting reds and you keep earning more money. If you hit a green one, you kind of restart that counter. So that is one way of making a combo. Normally, if I made something like this, I would say whenever you have done it 30 times, you get 1x combo, 50 times 2x, or 100 times. For now, we're just going super easy about it and increasing this red hits in a row whenever you take down something that is an opponent. So where we check if it's gonna be said to be no longer alive, we're saying if the hit points of this particular target dummy is less than or equals to 0, and it is an opponent, increase the value of red hits in a row by 1. That's what we're saying here. It's very simple. It's like, I would make this in 1 line normally, but let's go with 3 lines of code. All this does is it increases that number red hits in a row if you kill a red mob. So how can we use that? Well, where we give money for hitting red ones, we plus that value with red hits in a row. So you get 3 for a headshot plus the number of reds you have killed before, or hit before, or whatever you want to do. You could also multiply it so it goes like 3, 6, 9. Right now it's going to be 3, 4, 5. All of these things are possible. Right now we are just affecting one number in this parentheses area. You can use this shared data red hits in a row anywhere because it is a public static variable, meaning that you can access it from anywhere in anything in the entire game now that we have made it. So if you want to do something else with it, if you want them to move slower based on how many you have hit, you can change the speed in the graphics target dummy to this.s minus red hits in a row, shared data.red hits in a row. There are so many ways you can use these pieces of information. It's really just about imagination and what you think would be a really cool game. We're going to do something else, and that is we're going to add an else. So if you hit something that isn't, as soon as you hit something that isn't an opponent, you are not only going to lose money, you're also going to be resetting this value, this number of the amount of reds in a row you have been hitting, so it gets to 0, because that is like the super penalty of being on a kill streak. So guys, fiddle around with the numbers, just have fun with it. Obviously we don't want things to be able to cluster on top of each other, and there are so many things just about this that I think would be really, really amazing to update on. But for now, just about an hour of saving. Check. One thing I think is really important to get to cover early in the process. We have made it so that we can work with randomization in the future, which is really important. I hope I showed you guys a few ways to use random. We have made it so that we can work with colors in an easier way in the future. I think that too is very important. We have looked into things that move on the screen with customizable features where we can make areas that give you different amounts of money if you hit them different places. And you may be wondering, why on earth did he make a target dummy? I could have made anything. Why a target dummy, even though it's an ugly one? And it is of course because I know a lot of you guys are fascinated by the CSGO concept, as you have been with Case Clicker, and you probably like unboxings like I do. And even though I do not want to copy somebody else's concept, I don't want to steal images from another game and stuff like that, but I expect that I will be making an unboxing feature, because a lot of you guys talked about that when I was working on the Apple Clicker. And one of the things I always felt about these unboxing games where you can get weapons is, why can't I use them? So how about if we made some type of clicker game where you could unbox a weapon? For instance, it could also be Rotten Tomatoes we're throwing with, but you could also use them for something. If you unbox a bazooka, you're going to blow away a target dummy. If you unbox some other thing with a spray pattern, even though you tap at the center of a target dummy, you may actually miss it. Try to combine the fun of unboxing with the joy of having something that actually affects the game, where a weapon that is really worn may be hitting a little less accurate than something that is factory new. I don't know, it's brainstorming stuff, but now I kind of made one of the things that we can enhance and build upon if you guys want to take a game in that direction. So that is why I did the target dummy concept. It was just, hey, what if we made something similar to a training ground? We'd also make something like missions, and you need to train before you can go on a mission, Hitman style or something, and it takes an hour for you to train before you're ready to go complete your mission. And each time you hit something, your timer decreases. Think, I don't know, any game with a timer. Blogger Go Viral, for instance. So we can tap around to train faster so that we can go on our mission and take the hit or whatever it is, claim the crates that we can unbox, stuff like that. I have been brainstorming about without deciding anything, because I really hope to hear from you guys. What would you like to see in terms of functionality? I'm holding back on my ideas because I don't want to say something and then you guys are just gonna be like, yeah, let's do that. Because if you have a really cool idea, you're like, why have I never seen that in a game? I don't want you to be holding back on asking for it because I said something else. But anyway, guys, that was my bits and bytes for today. I'm gonna be improving on this in the next video, depending on what you guys give me response-wise. I'm probably gonna be making a target class that just draws a targeting area with the circles with different colors and the spaces, so that we can optimize the target dummy code even more. I may make a progress bar, as I talked about with the, hey, you need to wait an hour, you can decrease it by shooting. I may make a shop so that you can increase your damage or you can increase your tap value, because even though we just removed the option to get money by tapping anywhere, it's just removing those 2 dashes we put in front of it, then it's back in the game. I may also make a settings file where we can go in and say, where it will say something like use target dummies, and you can write yes or no. If you write yes, it's gonna be like that. If you write no, we're gonna have the other way we did before. So I have a lot of things that I am gonna be looking into. What parts make it to the next video also depend on what you guys are gonna be telling me in the comments. Anyway, I'm talking like crazy. For now, thank you guys as always, like crazy. I am really amazed by these videos about making apps. You guys are, yeah, I am very surprised that so many of you wanted to watch them. I'm really honored about that. So thank you guys very much for watching.